What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Don't Give Up the Ship podcast. This is episode 54, and today I got to talk to Beata Bautista. She is the owner, founder, proprietor of Go Ashore. You may have seen it on the social media platforms. I shared one of her blogs a while back when I discovered it, and she has since progressed into a podcast, which is awesome. And her focus there is to basically help people with resources and processes and advice on how to successfully transition out of the military. She talks about her experience there and a little and how it was kind of rough, and wants to basically just share lessons learned and help set up like how-to guides and methods for people to hopefully avoid some of the issues that her and her friends have experienced during their transition. And also is involved with a group called Saving Sailors, which I've talked about a few times on this podcast as well. That it's a private Facebook group. I've since our discussion have looked that up and made sure that was accurate. But it's private right now. But they have a page that you can like, and you can also message that page to ask to be added to the group. And then you can reach out to people like me or Beata to get access to that. You have to be invited to join it, but it's a Facebook group that is built around the concept of just mental health awareness and coping mechanisms, and just creating a place where you can go and have a discussion as a starting point and just kind of vent, get maybe some advice, relay stories, and just be in a group of humans that understand where you're at and can empathize and hopefully help in ways just by discussing it. It's really cool. It's founded by a group of people, including her, and I'm a really big fan of it. That's where I met Chief Jason Thompson, that we did a podcast with, a thoroughly run through episode. And that's where I kind of, between just the Go Ashore platform and then Saving Sailors, is how I linked up with her as well. So doing really cool things. I'm super excited to be able to talk to her, not just because she's an interesting human, but because of the things that she's doing. I think it's really cool that, again, anytime somebody finds a space that just requires somebody to do something about a problem or create a function or a mechanism for sailors especially, but just people to figure out how, a way around something or a solution to something, or just creating a resource for people that helps. It was really cool. It was fun. It was a fun discussion, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Awesome. All right. So like we talked about, right, just give me your background first, when you joined the Navy, what you did in the Navy, et cetera, and then leading up to you separating, and then we'll go from there, because I know that point is going to be something that we're going to talk about and then transition into how you ended up doing what you're doing now.
Right. Okay. So my name is Beata Bautista. I was in the Navy for 10 years. I joined back in 2009, right after I graduated high school. Basically, when all my friends were going to college, it was just time, just right, that I went to boot camp. It was I dipped in halfway through my senior year. I knew okay. I wasn't going to college. I'm not good at school. I'm really not doing well now that it's I'm taking online college. It's terrible. I really need to sit in the classroom. But anyway, so I joined in 2009, went to A school in Great Lakes to be a GSE. Okay. And what was it? Yeah, my first duty station was in Norfolk. So spent some time over there, and I wasn't on my ship for very long before. I was there for about a year before I got pregnant. Okay. And so I mean, I think that was a huge thing that shaped my career, because if I didn't have a young kid, I wouldn't have made all the decisions that I've made. But so here I am in Norfolk, GSC 3 Bautista, trying to figure out whether I should re-enlist or not, because I was coming up to that to where I was up for orders. This was in 2013 because my daughter was born 2012. So they give you like a year and they put you right back out to sea. And what was it? So yeah, I decided that I didn't join the Navy just to get pregnant. So I re-enlisted, went back to sea, got orders to San Diego, which is where I'm from. So I thought,
Okay.
oh, cool. Like, I'll take these orders.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that eased the like stress. I mean, I don't know what your structure was, but like, I was going to ask, like, how did you, because if you're going back to sea, did childcare like factor in at all? Because like I know a couple of friends of mine, it's like one of my really good friends is a senior chief that her daughter is, I think she's 10, but she has to like live with her parents in a totally different state while she's on sea duty, and like she sees her whenever she gets to go on leave, and I'm like, that melts my brain. Like, I don't know the stress of doing that. Like, so what was the situation like for you with like the childcare piece while you're on sea duty?
So, at the time, I was married to my daughter's father, and part of me thinks that I literally only married him because I didn't want to pay to move him. I don't know if that's the best reason to get married. So as you can imagine, that wasn't the best move. Yeah. But yeah, so my family's in San Diego. I'm from San Diego. I grew up here. I checked in to my ship on deployment. We were in Japan, and literally the day I checked in, they were like, oh, we're having an all hands call. And the all hands call, they put out, hey, the rumors you guys have been hearing are true. We're home port shifting to Hawaii. And I was like, oh, okay. So I call my husband, and I'm like, hey, all the stuff that we're getting from Norfolk, don't bother unpacking, because So so I came back from deployment to go straight into like a training cycle and a home port shift and into another deployment right after we got to Hawaii. So that was just like, I don't know. I guess at the time I didn't think it was that bad, but looking back on it, it was kind of rough. But at the time you're just kind of living in the moment. So I got back from that deployment, and I just had a lot of issues with my husband where I realized this isn't the best situation for me or my daughter. So so we got what was it? We separated initially on, like, honestly, like, I've been dragging my feet on the divorce papers. We're still technically married, and it's been like 5 years. But anyway, so he moved out, and that was kind of when I really started thinking about, like, oh, I can't do this. I can't, like, I need to get out. I need to be home for my daughter, because because I was in Hawaii where I didn't really have anyone, and her dad wasn't really around, which is wild because it's an island. Like, where else are you? Right. I'd ask him to take her on duty days, and he just was, I don't know, he was busy somehow with, I don't know, I get it, like, with schoolwork or whatever, but it just wasn't really, like, I don't know, it's like once a week, like, can you, let's see. Yeah, so that was back in 2016, and that was when I thought I was going to get out the first time. So, I started, planning to get out. And, I mean, at this point, I was already a first class because I was a GSE. Like, everyone always makes fun of us because our advancement rate was like 100% or whatever. So I was like 5 years in the Navy, and I was a GSE 1. But, so everyone's telling me, like, oh, you're making a big mistake. Don't you want to put on anchors? This and that. And I was like, nope, I don't care about any of that. And what was it? But it was really hard trying to coordinate like finding a job, finding a place to live when you're on an island, like a couple thousand miles away. I'm not good at geography, but Hawaii's far.
Yeah, I had a really hard time with it when I was in Washington State. I was an 11.5-year chief when I was at the end of my third enlistment. And I was like, I'm getting out. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I tried. At the time, for whatever reason, I had this romanticized idea in my head of what it would be like. But I really wanted to be a cop in like a big city. Like, I thought it would be something that would fulfill me in the same way as like the sense of purpose kind of thing. But I wouldn't have to go to sea and I wouldn't have to deal with some of the other stuff. So I was like, I just got this idea in my head that I wanted to be a cop. But the application process and screening and everything else takes forever. And I was like real paranoid about, I didn't want to get out without a job lined up. And it was just like, I couldn't get anything done in the amount of time that I had left and stuff like that. And I was like stressing out.
Right.
And obviously ended up sticking around. So
yeah, that's kind of what ended up happening with me, was that I just couldn't get anything lined up. And I'm really bad at interviews in the first place, but I'm extra bad at phone interviews. Like, and I just say really dumb stuff. Like I interviewed for a job so ideally I was trying to get back to San Diego, but at that point I was just trying to get any job. So I interviewed for the Daisy Sour Cream Factory in Dallas, Texas. And what was it? I don't know. I said something really dumb to them and I was like, well, not getting that job. So what was it? Yeah, and then I think I had an interview that went really well of all places with Chuck E. Cheese here in San Diego, and it was a technical manager position. So they were telling me about the job, and I was like, this literally sounds like everything I do right now. Yeah. They're like, yeah, you're responsible for the preventative and corrective maintenance of all the rides and games and this and that and blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, that sounds really familiar. And I was like, hey, how's your maintenance scheduled? And they were like, oh, well, we have a book of maintenance checks that need to be done quarterly and monthly and daily. And I was like, this is literally what I do now. Like, sign me up. Yeah.
Easy day.
And they're like, yeah, and you'll be in a management position, so you'll have to be, good with like these kids who like it's their first job and they're like 17. They don't really care about anything except for paying for their next pair of shoes.
So
or for
exactly
their phone bill.
what I do right now. Got it.
Right. I was like, okay, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, but what happened was I got the offer letter at the same exact time as I got orders to my next ship, which I didn't even apply for orders. They just kind of shoved orders in my face because I think I was at that point. It was like, like 6 months prior to your PRD.
Yeah.
And I could have still gotten out, but I was like, well, all I wanted was to go back home to San Diego, and this ship is in San Diego. So I ended up doing back-to-back sea duty because I didn't care. I just wanted to go home. Like, I wasn't thinking clearly. I was like, I just want to go home. So I did that. I mean, the same kind of thing. I was on sea duty and we were doing inspections all the time. We were underway for a lot of the time. Like, even though I was home, I wasn't home. So I just kind of felt like my daughter was growing up without me. What was it? Oh, and back in 2016, when this whole thing first started, that's when I first started seeing mental health. It was, kind of the same thing. Just feelings of inadequacy and, So, what was it? And I think when I got to San Diego, I was supposed to do some kind of thing follow up to continue my treatment or whatever it was, and I didn't, because I'm not good at that. And I don't talk to people. And so yeah, I was on my ship for about a year or so before all this old stuff just kind of started creeping up again, and I just didn't feel like I was being a good parent. I didn't feel like I was being a good sailor, and it was like, well, something has to give. So
right,
I figure, you know, like 20 years from now, like, who's actually still going to be around? My daughter.
Yep. Yeah.
But
yep.
yeah, so that was kind of the decision making process for me.
And so how did it go? I guess, like, we talked before about how I was going to lay this out, but I think it'd probably make more sense to talk about, like, the decision-making process for separating and, like, how that went for you. And then we can talk about, like, how we both experienced, like, and is it right or is it wrong? Like, the pressures of, like, people telling you that it's better to stay in or what. But how did it go for you when you were starting to vocalize that, hey, I'm a 10-year first class and I'm going to separate from the Navy?
Oh, they hardcore guilt tripped me and used my daughter to do that. They were like, oh, well, how are you going to provide? Yeah. How are you going to provide for your daughter? What are you going to do about insurance? Like this and that, like how, I don't know, just kind of that stuff. I had like, so back in like my last trip back in like 2016, I did have a chief who was like really supportive, you know, kind of like you, who was like, oh, well, you know, whatever you want to do, I'll support you. But but this, I mean, that last trip I was on, it was like from the moment I checked on board, there was kind of like this kind of what was it? I don't want to say, maybe it was kind of a bias, but I don't know if they knew that I was gonna. I think I was pretty vocal about the fact that I was gonna get out before. Okay. So there was already this this view of me that like, oh, like she doesn't actually want to be in the Navy. So I was treated kind of differently.
Even that's what I hate. I absolutely hate about that bias that exists. And it's like, I kind of understand why it exists, but it's not right. And what I mean by that is like, we'll go into ranking boards or like, we'll be talking about like maps, especially like, but either way, like EPs, maps, that kind of awards, whatever. And they'll be like, there will inevitably be somebody that's like, oh, well, that person's separating. So, and it's like, who cares? Like if GSE 1, like for instance, like say I'm in a Sailor of the Quarter board and GSE 1's nominated and is clearly the best candidate for the award, but they're separating a month after that award's given out. You'll hear people say, well, it's not going to do anything for her, so we'll just give it to the next best thing. And it's like, that's not what this is. This is a merit-based process that's recognition for their performance during the last quarter. Who performed at the highest level during the last quarter? Clearly it's GSE 1 because we just had that conversation. So they're separating from the military piece that's not in the calculus at all. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And I've been in that position a bunch of times where we're talking about mapping someone. That's probably the most like vehemently opposed by certain people is like, because you're going to promote somebody. And it's like, look, this is a meritocracy. Like it's a merit-based process. So if Sailor X that says they're going to separate is clearly the choice based on all of the criteria for which we evaluate them, then they're the choice, period. And oddly, what you find is that when you approach it from the perspective of I'm just going to do what's best for you no matter what, and if that includes helping you set yourself up for separation or counseling you through whatever processes, or you're a super digit that wants to stay around for 37 million years, then I'm going to do that. And what you find is everybody, including me, up to my 11 and a half year point, was separating at every reenlistment point. And at 11 and a half years, I was a chief. And I was like, nope, I'm done. And I was going to separate from the military. And what I found was everybody's doing that. And when you treat them with the respect and like with the authentic like care and you're talking to them from that perspective where you're like, oh, you want to separate and go sharpen pencils at Chuck E. Cheese or whatever it is. Like, okay, I'm here for you, and I'm gonna help you be the best pencil sharpener there is. What you'll find is that those people feel like valuable contributing members of your organization, and they feel like their leadership cares about them, and they start to value the organization and the job that they're doing. And they're like, maybe this is what I want to do. Like maybe they were going to get there anyway, but like to retain the people we want to retain, if you approach it from that angle, a lot of times what you find is that they start to think to themselves, well, this leader values me and the organization values me. And like you map a kid that was talking about getting out of the Navy, and they get mapped, and then now they're like a second class, and they're like, oh, well, now I'm a second class and I'm making more money and I'm going to be eligible for first class in a couple years. Maybe I'll go to shore duty and just see what happens. You know what I mean? And it's like, if the goal is retention, like, which if we want the organization to be better, we want to retain the best and brightest. Some of those end up getting out because of the perspective you were just talking about. It's like, if you just treat them like normal people, and like you do what good leaders do and take care of them and set them up for success in whatever they're vocalizing is like their desired path, sometimes that's going to shape their path in a different direction. Sometimes it's not. And you're just going to continue going down that road of being a good leader and a good human being and taking care of them and setting them up for success. And quote unquote, worst case scenario, they separate from the military and go on to be really great ambassadors for all the kids that they meet that are considering joining the military, and talk to them about their experience. Right. That's like the worst case scenario when you're approaching it from a retention perspective. Is like, worst case scenario, I lose them anyway, but they have this really great experience and they have like a positive view of leadership and the organization as a whole. And they go and communicate that to I don't even know how many people, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it blows my mind that more people don't approach it from that perspective, because I've had a lot of sailors separate from the military and go on to do really successful, like be really successful on the path that they choose. And then I've had a bunch of people that were positive they were getting out of the military that have stuck around and done great things. Like I've talked about before, I had two cooks I was on a special project submarine whose mission it was to be at sea all the time. Like our op tempo was absurd. And when you put a first term sailor in that situation, retention's not going to be good. Like they didn't get to see the world. They didn't get to do anything like cool, like have cool experiences. All they did was this mission. And so these kids naturally wanted to separate from the military. And I talked to them about their intentions, was like, hey, like, what do you guys want to do? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, we're getting out. This is stupid. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Like, what are you going to do when you get out? And they didn't really know. And then eventually through conversation, it came to light that like, well, we want to be CTs, but that everybody keeps telling us no, and that can't happen. I was like, oh, well, joke's on you guys. I'm the career counselor too. So let's talk. And it turns out there was, and I don't know if it's still around or not, but there was they called it SCORE. It was basically re-enlist to convert your rating.
Yeah.
And I talked to them about it. I'm like, look, the worst case scenario is they say no, and then you guys separate from the military anyway. But we can put in a SCORE package, and you can say, well, this is the only rating I want to do. And if you want to keep me in the Navy, you're going to convert me. And if not, the premise of the program is if they say no, then you separate. You're not re-enlisting no matter what. You're re-enlisting with this like contingency, like this has to happen or it's voided and I'm just going to separate. Mm-hmm. And so one of them was like, there were two different flavors of CT, but they both put in packages to be the flavor of CT they wanted to be. And both got approved, and both are chiefs right now in the Navy. And it's like funny how that works when you just like take care of a sailor and help them pursue what they really want, which sometimes you got to pull it out of them. But once you get what they really want, it's like, if I go down that road and I make the Navy tell me no, sometimes they're not going to say no. And I have two chiefs in the Navy right now doing great things, super happy about where they're at in their life, and valuable contributing members of this organization that would not have happened if I was just like, no, you just need to re-enlist, like you need to stick around, blah, 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 and tried to hammer it into them and then failed because I would have, because this isn't what they wanted to do and they were miserable. And then they would have separated and we would have lost those two guys. And it's just like, what sense does that make? What do we gain by trying to like guilt trip somebody into staying in the Navy no matter what and not having those types of conversations with them? Like
you're gonna gain 2 disgruntled sailors that post memes on Reddit about how awful chiefs are. That's
hey, that's fine. Yeah, and I mean, who would notice if there was 2 more that were just blasting chiefs? And it's like there'll never be a shortage.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I noticed that same thing where I'd have sailors that would tell me like, oh, I want to get out, and I'd be like, are you sure? Like what is it that you actually want to do? And it wasn't that they wanted to get out. It was like, well, they joined the Navy to go like hunt pirates, and here they are turning wrenches, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see how we can get you hunting pirates or something. I don't know if we really do that anymore, but I think I joined the Navy around the time of the whole Captain Phillips thing, so pirate hunting was still
Yeah, I think there's a real concern too that like I think a lot of times, and not that there's not people who just blindly guilt trip because they think it's like retention's part of their job. Like if you read our evals and you look at the traits and you read the little subcategories, retention is one of the things that chiefs are evaluated on. E6s are too, right? So it's like, but I think that like part of it is like, it's built into us to be concerned about that. But the way in which we express that concern, I don't think it's done as like productively as it could, because like a lot of times I think chiefs have conversations with junior sailors, and when they say things like, well, how are you going to provide for your child? Like that's a genuine concern they have for you, is like, what's your plan? Because like, when I have that conversation with a sailor, like when they're talking about getting out, it's like, okay, like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your plan? Because I don't care if you want to be a lion tamer or like you want to run away to the circus. Like, okay, like, let's look into that. What's the process? Like, is there a school you have to go to? How much money are you going to make? Are you going to be able to provide for your child? And it's like, because that's a very real concern. And like you were just saying, it's like, as you distilled it down to like what's going to be there in 30 years and you're thinking about it, it's like the priority is your daughter. So like, what are you going to be able to do? And so I think a lot of times I talk about it a lot where like I view my sailors as my kids, right? Like I say that a lot, and somebody, I probably beat up on this guy too much. I don't actually say who it is, but there's somebody on Reddit that was like telling me that I shouldn't say that. And I thought about it, because like I bring that, I really do consider that feedback. And I'm like, should I be saying something the way that I am, and how is it affecting people, and is it creating barriers to me communicating with the target audience? But like, I thought about it, and I'm like, no, that's the right term, because like the way that I look at it, especially not having children, is like I invest in these kids, which a lot of them are actually kids when I get them.
Yeah, like straight out of high school. I feel the same way.
Yeah, I have a hard time debating that. It's like, yeah, sure, they're legally an adult at 18, but they don't know how to buy a car, write a check, or do anything else that adults do. So like, and they have the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old a lot of the time. So I'm just like come, I'm finishing them into adults, and so it's like they're kids. Like they are. I was a kid when I was 18. Like, come on. So, but also I look at them, and this is the reason why I wasn't willing to change my mind about it, is like, I look at them like they're my kids. Like I invest in them, and I like care about them like they're my kids. Like a couple of my juniors that got out after that special projects platform are coming to my wedding. Like they're important people to me, and I invest in them on that level. And it's just like, so I view them that way. And so when I ask a question like that, I think that at this point, I'm pretty good at articulating myself in a way that you're going to walk away understanding that it's a genuine care for you and a concern for your success and your ability to take care of your family and et cetera, if you do separate. But like, I think a lot of times an emotional reaction will be construed as anger or like frustration. And it's like, really? Like, you're going to get out? Like, how are you going to take care of your daughter? Like, and it's almost like I'm attacking you or something, but it's like, I don't mean it like that, but that's how it comes across. And so that's how it's perceived, is just this jerk is attacking me and basically questioning my ability to take care of my child. Like, I'm definitely not going to listen to you now, but in reality, I think it could be from a good place.
I agree. There's a definite, I'm really sensitive to tone of voice. So there's definite different to how you said it and how it was said to me.
Yeah. I've heard it done that way too, and I definitely understand that it's probably being perceived as like wholly negative, and like that this person's just attacking me, and a lot of times I would even think that it's perceived as like, oh, well, you're saying that if I got out, I'd fail. Like I wouldn't be able to take care of my family. And it's just like, I'll show you, but in reality, it's like, I think it's just like a passionate reaction to someone they care about. And it's not, I'm sure it's not always the case. Like I'm sure some of those Redditors that you're talking about are rolling their eyes and queuing up memes right now. But like the vast majority of the time, I can say from experience in a bunch of different messes that most, if not like, I would say like the vast majority of chiefs like genuinely care about their sailors and are trying, if they may be failing, they may be doing it wrong, they may be doing it in a way that's perceived negatively. And I'm not like saying those things aren't true. But the vast majority of them are trying to do what's best. They think they're doing what's best for their sailors. And so it's like when they communicate something that way, if they react emotionally and communicate it in the way that you experience, it's like most people aren't showing up to work like, I'm going to treat all my sailors like crap today. Like, watch this. Like, it's not happening. Like, you got to consider the human being that's on the other end of the conversation, all the crazy stressors that are on them too. Who knows what they're going through? And then somebody they care deeply about, it tells them that they're going to separate from the military, which for them has been the only like safe place that has been successful and provided for their family for 20 years. And it's like, and you're saying that you're going to go outside the lifelines of the thing that they can control to make sure that you're taken care of and go into all this uncertainty that a lot of them have never really experienced anyway. And it's like, they're freaking out. They're like, oh my God, no, like that's the bad place. Like, you don't want to go there. You want to stay here where it's safe and warm. And so it's like they're concerned. They're genuinely concerned for you, but they're going to react like negatively and it's freak out and be like, no, you can't. That's a bad idea. You can't do that. So I think that's probably the feeling that is happening, but they're just doing a crap job of communicating it,
Yeah. Have you ever seen Moana?
I've seen part of it, if not all of it. I know I've seen part of it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure that came out in 2016, and it was like the most perfect movie to come out at that time. Like, I felt like it was made for me because it was like it was about this girl who like, oh, her family wants her to stay on this island and become the chief, and she just wants to go out like to see what's beyond the island, and they fucking won't let me.
That's funny.
Are you gonna bleep that out?
That's fine. I didn't see. I now that you say that, it's strangely appropriate, but like, I definitely didn't like put that together when I did. I think I saw, because my wife is like a lot of Disney movies and stuff, and so like I'll occasionally watch like some of the older ones with her. But yeah, I want to say we started watching it, and I don't think I finished it.
Okay.
I fall asleep sometimes during stuff like that too. I'm old.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So how did, like, because you were in the midst of like the mental health counseling, and then you during the time you were about to separate, you stopped, right? Like, you didn't go back, you said? Or were you back at it at that point?
In between my PCS from Hawaii to San Diego, I just stopped seeing mental health. They were like, oh yeah, once you get back get to San Diego, you have to go and I didn't know what the process was, so okay. I went to mental health like at medical in San Diego, and I was like, hey, I was seeing mental health over in Hawaii. How do I start getting seen here? And they're like, oh, well, you need a referral from your PCM or whatever. And then at the time, I just like, our HMC wasn't like the best, and no one wanted to talk to her, and I also didn't want to talk to her, so I just didn't. And what was it? But around the same time that I checked in, actually, it It was actually probably several months after. Like, you know how sometimes you check in and then you don't go through in-doc until like 5 or 6 months after you check into the command. Yeah. So that's what happened with me, and our new HMC had come on, and had just checked on board, and he was going through in-doc with me, and during in-doc he mentioned how passionate he was about like mental health stuff and suicide awareness and this and that, because he lost his best friend to suicide. So I was like, okay, that's a guy I can talk to. So I think, I mean, eventually, like anytime I was having like a rough time on the ship, I'd go see him, like, and he just like let me sit in the corner and like, I don't know. Yeah. He's a good guy. I miss him.
Yeah. I was going to ask like how the process and like stress of like going through it and then having people kind of give you those guilt trips affected you in that way, like as you were transitioning out.
Yeah. Oh, well, shoot. Well, so actually, I mean, I was on my ship for a year and I ended up going limb due to mental health reasons. Yeah. I think I glossed over that part.
Yeah, I was gonna say we didn't talk about that at all.
Because I was only on that ship for about a year and then I left, and everyone's like, "Oh, where'd she go?" Because I was supposed to be there until like 2021, which now doesn't seem so far away, but it seemed like forever.
Oh god, but, that's a long time.
Yeah. So, what was it? Yeah, I was just having really bad like symptoms, I guess, of like, because I don't know like what your experience is with like anxiety and depression and all that, but like you can only ignore things for so long until they start to affect you physically. Like you can't sleep, you can't breathe, you're just like in a constant state of panic. So I think I mentioned that what was it? Oh, actually, I went to HMC and I was like, hey, I'm having a hard time sleeping. I'm waking up like 10 times a night instead of my usual like 5 times a night. Can I go like do a sleep study for sleep apnea or whatever? And he was like, I'm pretty sure this is like your anxiety, and I think you should go see what was it? He put in a referral for me for mental health, but I have a really hard time making phone calls. Like initiating conversation is like, I'm just like, so as a kid, I actually, I was diagnosed with something called selective mutism, which is more of like, it's more of an anxiety disorder than anything, but it meant that I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't talk to, like, the only person I was comfortable talking to growing up was my sister. So I didn't even talk to my parents.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't even, so it wasn't until I was probably in high school that I really started talking more. But so what was it? Yeah, the big issue that they identified with me when I was a kid was that I can't initiate conversation. And, to some degree, I still have a lot of trouble doing that now. And my big thing is I can't make phone calls. If I absolutely have to, like if someone's life depended on it, then I can make a phone call. But and it's not lost on me, the irony that I'm hosting a podcast now, but
yeah, I was gonna say, I was thinking that in my head. I'm like, it's pretty impressive that you're able to do that. If that's because like I definitely, like when I was a kid, similar but not as severe. Like I just didn't. It was a stranger's thing mostly. Like I had like a lot of anxiety with just talking to people I didn't know, and especially like if I had to like go up and knock on a door and like of somebody I didn't know. Like we had a paper route when I was a kid, and back when that was still a real thing, and like it was like my mom would want me to like go up and knock on the door and like to get payment or whatever. And I'd like freeze and I'd freak out. I'd be sweating. Like, I just hate doing it. And like, even to this day, like I'm a lot more comfortable texting or like just doing something else besides calling somebody on the phone, which I've gotten to the point where like I can force myself pretty easily to do it, but it's like if I can avoid it, I generally will. Like if it's not, I don't know, like I have this thought progression in my head where it's like I kind of know when I need to do it, and it's like when I know I need to do it, I just do it.
Right.
But it took me a long time to get good at that, and I definitely I don't know, like it was weird, and it still is, because like I think I could, like I think about when I retire, and it's like I don't have the demand of being a chief, because that's what a lot of what helped me get to that point. It's like when I can just like withdraw and I don't have to do any of those things anymore, like I'm kind of scared of like what's gonna happen, because I feel like I'd be totally happy, like we were talking about earlier, like living in a van down by the river and never talking to anybody again, and I'd be fine with that. So it's kind of like something that I think about where I'm just like, I got to make sure that I don't allow that to happen. But yeah, I definitely do that. And it's like, even with the podcast, it's like, I prefer Zencaster, like we were talking about earlier. I use this platform because like, I don't have to look at people when I talk, like, cause I don't like having my face on the thing. Like, it's like, I would prefer to do it this way, which like I did one. I've been on a few other podcasts where I did one with Jeff Bayless, where we did one on Zoom or whatever, where he could see my face, and he prefers it that way because he likes to see who he's talking to. And it was fine. Like I did it, but a lot of the times I wasn't looking directly at him, because it's just like, it's just more comfortable for me. I don't know why. It's just a thing that I've never loved like doing it. It's just always been kind of weird for me.
Yeah, I get that.
Not on that level though. Like I've never, because my wife has bad anxiety, and like for me,
really?
it's like I have it, and it's like there's times where it gets bad, but it's not like, it's usually just situational. Like one of the biggest examples that I would give is like I used to stand what's called diving officer of the watch on a submarine, and it's something that it's very much like you have safety of ship in your hands for 8 hours, and it's like I'm the guy responsible for driving the submarine and giving orders that make the submarine go up, down, left, right, like doing things that could kill people if I did it wrong. And so it's like I could be responsible for a ship's collision, and it's just like that kind of responsibility where it's like I literally, like there's risk of life and limb if I screw this up. I hate it. I hate having that type of responsibility. And it's just because, and I suppose if it was something that I felt like I was like a super high level expert with lots of experience at, that would probably mitigate it some. But like for some reason with this watch, like even though I had people tell me I was doing really well, and I had my commanding officer was like, you're pretty good at this, calm down. Like I just never got to a place mentally where I believed it. And so I had trouble sleeping, and I had like knots and stuff in my stomach all the time. And like I would sit up the day before and look at the night orders and figure out what we were doing the next day and be studying a thing I already knew back and front. And because I was like so panicked about like screwing it up and being the guy that was responsible for whatever terrible thing happened as a result of me screwing it up. And that was like it. Usually the anxiety is situational for me, where when it gets bad, that's what it is. It's like space. Yeah. And when that stressor goes away, I'm okay. But my wife is like, yeah, she has a hard time with it.
Yeah, I mean that is stressful though. Your stuff is just like, wow. Like, I'm nervous enough. I was nervous enough, like standing in the watch where I was like in charge of the whole, like the entire ship's electricity. It was like, right. I was like, I couldn't, like I never got to be like EOW or anything, but I was like, I wouldn't want that. Yeah,
and me either. And that's what's so crazy. And it's like, and that's something that factors into me like considering, which now with all my health stuff is probably a moot point, but like when I was considering being a cob, like when you're the senior enlisted on a submarine, which I think I would handle that a lot better because most of it's leadership and management of people, and that's like my lane, It's like,
right.
So I don't know that it would bother me as much, but a component of that job is you're supposed to be like the subject matter expert and like supervisor of diving officers of the watch, right? So like I'm up in control every time the ship goes to periscope depth. supervising that evolution, and that would freak me out, you know, like, because if something goes horribly wrong, everybody's going to be looking at me like, what happened, Cobb? And I'm just like, I'm the cook chief. I don't know. Like, what happened is I suck at this. I told you guys going in, but yeah, it's like a weird component of it that I'm like supposed to be the expert on that, and that would freak me out. Good. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was trying to figure out how we got on this subject.
I think squirrels, man. Squirrels. I chase squirrels. Yeah.
I think I was talking about how I couldn't make the phone call to mental health. Yeah. It was like he'd made me a referral like 3 times, and none of those times did I actually make the phone call. Yeah. And there was finally this one day where he was like, "Hey, there's this walk-in clinic that just opened up. It's right near the commissary. It's called the Mood Clinic." I don't know. Have you heard of it? I know Chief Conn has mentioned it. Yeah,
Grant Conn. Yeah, he mentioned it. I haven't heard of it in our area. We have an embedded mental health clinic. It's similar, where you can kind of walk in, where they have it down on the waterfront, and then they have it up at the regular medical clinic. And it sounds like it's similar in function, but yeah, it's like a walk-in thing. You don't need a referral or appointment, and it could be like they'll evaluate you, and then you can come back and get follow-on appointments and stuff like that. But
okay, yeah, that's pretty much how that worked. So, yeah, he was like, "Yeah, there's this new clinic that just opened up. You should go over there." And you know, I had this brochure in my hand for probably another few months because I was putting it off because the mission comes first and my sailors come first, and everyone else has appointments. I can wait. And and I think one day I finally went, and I didn't even I still had to drag myself off the ship to be able to go. I was like, because I don't like leaving in the middle of the day. I just feel like there's still work to be done. I can't let myself leave if everyone else is still working. But I went, and when I got there, I still sat in the parking lot for another hour, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Yeah, I do. No, I don't. And by the time I convinced myself to go inside, they were on lunch. So I had to wait another hour before I was actually seen. And so I go in there, and as much as I like to tell people, I'm dead inside, I'm not. I'm like, my Myers-Briggs type is an INFP, so I feel things really intensely. And anytime I start talking about, like, what's going on with me, I just start bawling. Just like, so I was like, I'm just really stressed out. This is happening. And like, on top of all this, like, I don't know, like, my rate is for whatever reason, like 100% to chief, and I don't think I'm going to make it. And guess what? I didn't make it at 100%, but I was relieved when I didn't make it. I was like, holy shit. But,
did you not make board or something? Like, cause I thought if it was that big of a quota, like everybody made it.
Yeah, I know. That's why everyone was like, how do you not make it?
Yeah, that's bizarre.
It was, I'm pretty sure it was like, I was missing stuff in my record. Okay. There was like, I don't know how huge the PRT score is, but I assume it's pretty huge if it's missing and you don't have a good reason, because I had a PRT score missing from 2016. What's that?
It's only visible on your evals, so it's like they can't see prims at the board. It's a common misconception. So it's
really?
Yeah, they can't see NSIPs, they can't see prims. All they can see is your OMPF, and it's like field codes 30 through 36. It's like your performance awards, stuff like that, administrative remarks. And then they can see, so they see OMPF, they see your PSR, which if you go on like BOL, there's a link to it. And all it is like some administrative data and a summary of your evals, like performance mark average, individual trade average, that kind of thing. And then they can see your package that you submit, and that's it. Right. So it's like they don't see any of those things like at the board. Like they're not able to view NSIPs, they're not able to view prims. So unless there was some goofiness with your evals, but I mean, you could have
I think I mean, there had to have been something, like a few things missing, and I didn't care enough to correct it. It was
Right.
something like that, because back in 2016, when I re-enlisted, I was so close to separating. Because you know how when you re-enlist, they tell you to do it at least 60 days out to to make sure nothing gets jacked up. And if you really, really have to, you can do it like 20 days out, which is what happened with me. I was 20 days away from separating, and I was like, no, I'll stay. And what happened was PSD not accidentally, but like they processed my separation before they processed my reenlistment. So there was so for like the month of February, I just like wasn't getting paid. I was in the Navy, but I wasn't in the Navy, and I had reserve recruiters calling me, and I'm like, I'm still active duty, leave me alone.
Yeah, you probably had some weirdness in your admin stuff that like made them, that I would guess that's probably what it was.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm sitting at the mood clinic, and I'm explaining all this, and they're like, oh, okay, well, like, we'll set you up with these appointments. And I finally, got my appointments to see a therapist and psychiatrist. And I wasn't on medication before, but I figured I'd try it or whatever. Like, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm not on it anymore. But and that's basically how. Oh, no. So I was seeing my therapist for about a year, but I was always underway or busy or something, and I wasn't I'd go like a couple months or so between seeing her, and she was like, hey, like, I feel like you're getting worse, and I think for this therapy to be effective at all, you need to be limdo. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't know what it was about my ship where we had a lot, especially in the engineering department, like, we had a lot of sailors go limdo for mental health reasons, and I didn't even know that was a thing until I got to that ship. I didn't know that was a thing you could go limdo for. I don't know, but I was like, no, I don't want to be another one of, like, I don't want to say another one of those people, because I helped those people. I helped them, go through the process or whatever.
Yeah, like, no, I get it.
Help, but I didn't want to be. I didn't want to.
It's a guilt thing with like because I'm the same way where it freaks me out thinking about it now, because like I'm the same way where I was always a guy that was like showing up early, staying late. I never had time for my own stuff. Like never. I deal with this medical stuff when I'm on shore duty, and then I get to shore duty and I have new excuses why I can't deal with it. And so like, as I got to this shore duty that I'm on now, it was like, I haven't been able to breathe through my nose for 10 years. Like, and it affects my sleep and like blah, blah, blah. So I've gotten to a point with age and everything else where I'm like, this could really like have long-term health effects. So let me go. It's my last shore duty. And then I'll probably go back to sea as a cob, and maybe I stick around and be a CMC or whatever. But like, it's the last shore duty before all those things. So it's like, and I might retire. So I really need to get this stuff looked at. And so I got an ENT referral, and that's how they figured out I had cancer. And it's just like, if I hadn't finally made time for my own health stuff, like this tumor was in a place where like, it was just starting to grow up towards my brain. And it's like, and luckily I got super lucky that, because there was like almost 2 year gap between me recognizing a symptom that was really bizarre, where I was blowing my nose on deployment, and instead of air coming out on the right side, it built up pressure. And I'm like, that's not normal. Like shouldn't do that. And I went and talked to my doc about it, and he's like, could be some other things, but it's the deviated septum, but it shouldn't really be getting worse. So you need to get that looked at. I'm like, okay. So like, I still was just like, when I go to shore duty. But then we went to the shipyard, and I had like 3 months left. And I asked my doc, I'm like, hey man, give me an ENT referral so I can go get this looked at. And so I did. And that's when they're like, you got a badly deviated septum, and there's like a growth up there, but we'll take that out when we'll do that correction. It's all good. I'm like, okay. So then they did all this imaging and all the prerequisites for surgery. And then they're like, that's a tumor. And they're like, we're going to send you to a different hospital, like it was like a bigger military hospital near where I'm at, and have like a specialist look at it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go up there to this Army hospital, and the ENT surgeon there looks at it, and they're a little more concerned with the tumor. They're like, yeah, deviated septum, sure, but we'll fix that later. We got to get this tumor out, because like, they're like, it's benign, don't worry about it. Like, they kept telling me how benign it was, but they're like, we do need to take it out, because it's going to start growing and it'll displace some important things, like your eye and everything. Like, we need to get that out of there. I'm like, okay, cool. So we scheduled a surgery, and the morning of the surgery, they're like, psych, we're not going to take it out. We're just going to take a tissue sample to make sure it's what we think it is, because it could be cancer. And that was the first time I heard that. And so like all this snowball effect stuff happened. And it's just like, when they got done, they told me, they're like, yeah, when we took it out, it was just starting to grow up towards your brain. So they had to go in, they went in through my nose to pull it out, but they had to like take down the barrier between your sinus and your brain to like get it all out and do it. And it's like, if I had blown that off more, like if I had done what I classically do, I could have had an inoperable brain tumor. Like, that's crazy to think about.
That's
and so
yeah.
it's
How
just
long
like,
do they think it was there before you finally went
probably a couple years. Like and that's what I got spectacularly lucky, like that. It was the type of cancer it was, which meant it was a low grade tumor that grows slowly, and just like we caught it early and stuff like that. Like because if it was aggressive and I had waited that long, like who knows what would have happened. Like so it's to think about it like that, and to go back to like what you're talking about with like the mental health piece. It's like, if you have that like mental makeup where you're like, oh no, I'm going to take one for the team, and I'm going to be the one that sacrifices all the time, and I'm going to be the one that gives of myself, and I don't got time to take care of myself because I got to take care of everybody else. Eventually you're going to end up in a place where like something's going horribly wrong. It's like, this could have killed me, and mental health issues kill people all the time because they go untreated. And it's like, it's scary to think about, like even in your situation where like it was allowed to go on as long as it was, where they weren't like, no, you need to come to this treatment, and if you don't come to this treatment, we're gonna put you limb to, instead of like, you just, oh yeah, when you get to your next command, check in with them and they'll take care of you. And then you didn't, and no one was like beating down your door like that. It's scary to think about that part, because they knew, like yours was like, they knew that you needed to at least be talking to somebody at that point. And like, for me, it was like, I wasn't complaining about anything, so no one knew anything. And that's just because I'm an idiot. And like, I didn't go get it looked at, because I didn't think it was a big deal. Because of course it's not, because I still think I'm invincible, even though I'm in my mid 30s. So it's scary to think about what could have happened. And so like, that's one of those, like, just, it's super important, if anybody doesn't take, like, if you take nothing else away from this podcast, take away that you need to go get it looked at. You know what I mean? Like, you need to take that step towards getting, because like, maybe you go have a conversation and they're like, no, you're good. Like, you can come back a few more times. We'll talk about some stuff and you're fine. Or they like, there's some other way that they can put you in a more positive situation or get you trending in a more positive direction. Or maybe a mental health professional is like, no, you need to be on limb and we need to work through this. And they put their foot down for you because you're like me and you, where you're not willing to make that decision yourself. Like, it's just like, because that's scary to think about. And like I've lost friends to mental health issues. I imagine you have. And it's like, that's something that's so preventable. Like, you don't need a surgeon to go in and take out a tumor. It's like, we have treatment and we know we can do these things and the resources are there and available. It's just like you gotta go ask for that. You like, take that first step of asking, like, hey, I need to talk to somebody, or I need to do whatever. Like, I need to take that first step towards help. And it's just like, thank God my stupid self, like, finally went and got it. Like, cause that's terrifying to think about, that there's that ticking time bomb. And it's similar, even though mine's physical. And it's like, you're saying, like, that those things manifest themselves physically. Like, that can be like a crippling thing, like anxiety. I watch my wife all the time, and it's just like, there's times where it's just like, she is like in a really bad place because of her anxiety. And it's like, sometimes it's not even like you can't point at something and be like, oh, that's why she's so anxious. It's like, no, like it just happens. And it like manifests itself physically where she feels really bad and like is in physical pain and is like emotionally like wrecked. And it's just like, well, I don't even know what to do half the time except be there. And it's scary to think about. And it's like, I always, that's kind of like the thing is it's like, I just want people to know that it's like, just go talk to somebody. I don't even care who it is. Like, go talk to somebody. And then maybe they can get you to a point where you recognize that, okay, maybe it's time to go talk to like mental health and you say it and it's almost like, I wish it had a different name. Like, cause it's the taboos and like, cause you say it and it's like, everybody's like, and it's like I wish it was like a more positively viewed function where it's just like, no, it's medical. Like they're there to help you. And I wish it was like universally viewed that way. And there was no stigma or everybody wasn't fearing like all the different repercussions it could have on their careers and blah, blah, blah. Like just because it's so necessary.
Yeah. I have a friend from A school. He's like one of my best friends. And he, he's on new ship and he, was kind of having some, the same kind of issues, I think, just feelings of inadequacy, like, oh, he's been in 10 years, but he doesn't feel like he's a good enough fire controlman or whatever it is. And I was like, this has been going on for probably as long as I've known you. Maybe you should see somebody. And we had this, conversation about like why he didn't want to. And he was like, oh, I don't want to end up leaving my ship. I don't want to end up getting separated, this and that. And I'm like, I think you should see someone and just see how it goes. And so, he's off his ship temporarily now, but last he told me he's going back. So it's not a, everyone thinks it's like a career killer and it's not.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's what's interesting about the one I was telling you before we started recording with Chief Thompson. That's, it'll come out right just before this one, but he, same thing. Like he was committed, like he was in a mental hospital for a period of time and he is back on active duty as a bosun's mate chief, deploying, doing his job. And it's just like one of the things that he does a way better job of articulating it, but it's like one of the things that he said was just like, he took a very odd path, like through his naval career where he started, as I'm going to butcher it. I forget exactly where he started, but he went through a bunch of rating conversions for different reasons. And one of them was his mental health, like some of the ways in which he coped with it. Like he ended up in a place that his credit wouldn't support a security clearance anymore. And it's like, that's a real thing that can happen, is it can affect your security clearance, but like he's still in the Navy. They cross-rated him to bosun's mate and he made chief. And he was like, he's out there deploying, contributing valuably. He's happy about it. Like an amazing dude. I highly recommend checking out that episode, but it's like he articulated it way better than I can, but it's just like, it's a very real possibility that there are some career implications, but like not in a way that should outweigh you seeking out that help, because there may be like, And his where he couldn't support his clearance anymore were because he didn't go get help earlier. And so some of the self-destructive like coping mechanisms he had, the consequences of those led to him not being able to support a security clearance anymore. But it's like there are times where it's like whatever happens, it might affect your career in a way because it's kind of put on pause, or maybe they decide that you can't do that job anymore, but you can do this job. And it's like, how important are those things? Because it kind of goes back to what you said earlier about like what's left when 20 years after you're out of the military, like what's left? Like your own like mental health, physical health, stability, family, like those are the things that are left over. And it's like whatever you invested at the time to take care of yourself are going to affect how much is left and how happy and like how much vitality you have and like all those things when you get to that point. And so it's like to invest in those things now. It's like if you find yourself in that place, just do it. And the effects that it has are going to be kind of like way secondary in like priority, but also like what you'll probably find is that the experience that you go through to make sure that you're okay and you're in a good place and that you can get back to, if that happens, to being part of the organization and going back to a seagoing unit or whatever, in whatever capacity that happens, you're going to be better for it. Like the experience you go through is going to make you a better person. It's going to give you perspectives that you didn't have. It's going to like alter your priorities in a really healthy way. And you're going to end up better for it. You're going to end up better equipped to take care of other sailors coming up that are going through similar things. And it's just like, when you talk to people like Jason, or you talk to like a guy like Jeff Bayless, who went through a really crazy experience, it's like, he's a way better chief now than he ever was at the beginning. Like he was a chief, right, and then he got commissioned as an LDO. And then there was a bunch of crazy stuff that happened that he didn't deal with, to the point that he ended up at suicidal ideations and mental health issues. And then the self-destructive coping mechanisms got him in trouble, and he had to revert back to chief because he ended up going to NJP for DUI. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you talk to him now and it's like, does he regret any of it? Not really, because he's a way better human being. He's a way better dad. He's a way better chief.
Right.
And it's just like, would he be in the really healthy place he is in his life had he not gone through all those experiences? It's like, no, like he's like, he definitively looks back on it. He's just like, I'm so much better now. And I'm making a way bigger impact. I'm helping people. Like I'm happier. I'm healthier. Like all his personal relationships are in a way better place. It's just like those things that people fear are often like a process that, after going through it, and it's not always going to be great when it's happening. Like it's going to be difficult, but like when you go through it and come out the other end of it, you're like way better for having done it, And it's just like, I don't know, like that's the kind of thing that I think gets missed sometimes. And it's like that fear that you have of like the effect it might have on your career. It's like, number one, that's secondary to your own like physical and mental health. But then on top of that, oftentimes, even though you might lose some time and you might not make some arbitrary goal you have of achieving some milestone in some amount of time, it's like, you're going to come out the other end way better for it. And you're not going to care about any of those things. You're going to just understand that that's a thing you needed to do. You'll be really happy that you did it. And then you'll be in a way better place for having done it. Let's transition to like what you're doing now. I found you through, I think like Facebook suggested you to me, like the To Go Ashore platform, I think, or maybe it might've been you liked one of the things and it said To Go Ashore. I'm like, oh, what's that? Because that happens sometimes too, where I find platforms in that way. But like, I'm weird. I don't know if everybody does it, but like if I see something like that and I don't know what it is, I go check it out and I'm like, oh, what's this all about?
No, I definitely do that.
And I saw it and I read one of the blogs and then shared it, and then realized like I didn't put it together until later that you were the same person that was involved with the Saving Sailors Facebook group and stuff that I've talked about it a few times on the podcast. So like then I realized you're involved with that too. And then I was just like, oh, okay, she's doing all kinds of stuff. So like, just talk about those things, like, so that everybody like knows what they are and that they're out there, but B, like kind of how they came about. Like, how did you get involved in Saving Sailors? How did To Go Ashore start, and kind of where is it all going?
So, I'm going to lead with the fact that I'm exploring the fact that I might have ADHD.
Maybe.
Maybe. But, yeah, so To Go Ashore, I think it was, I'd had that in my head for like years, probably right when, around 2016 when I thought I was separating the first time, and I was really frustrated that no one knew how to help me, but it wasn't their fault. Like, anybody in the Navy doesn't know how to get out of the Navy because obviously they're still in. Because
they've never done it, yeah.
Right. And even if they have, they came back in for a reason, and it's I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So I wanted to make a bunch of like how-to guides for how to do job interview, how to do like how to file your disability claim, how to this and that, which is something I've done since forever. I think when I was a kid, I don't know if you're familiar with Neopets or anything like that, but
No.
I kind of grew up in this weird time where we all just
what is a Neopet? I don't even know.
Neopets was this website that was really popular when I was a kid, which I guess wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
But there were I used to write how-to guides for how to do certain things in the game or whatever. So that's that's just a thing that I've always done. Take screenshots of things, point arrows everywhere, and oh, this is how you do this.
I do that all the time with work stuff. I've done that. There's weird functions within the food service realm where we have one of them's a cash verification officer. You have all the money that comes in every month for the officer meals and anybody that comes in and pays for a meal or whatever. And you have to do this process to just account for all the money. And then you have an outside entity audit it, which is a cash verification officer. And they're a junior officer that's not involved in supply at all generally. And so you have to train them and teach them how to do it. And they generally don't care about this process at all. So you have to make it really simple for them to not suck at it. So same thing, taking screenshots, pointing arrows, do this and then do this. And if it all adds up, then do this and sign here and initial here. And just pictures of the forms and arrows pointing to where they sign and all that stuff. So I've done that my entire career to make it stupid proof or try.
But no one ever, helps, right?
I usually fail.
I've done the same thing. I've made guides for how to verify your NFAS, how to find your bibs. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I mean, generally there's some people that they help, but a lot of people just they don't. I mean, for instance, I have a YouTube video. It's the only one I've done so far, but it's for basically the construction of and submission of a Chiefs package. And I've gotten a ton of amazing feedback on it because a lot of board eligible first classes are always having panic attacks about where do I put the paperclip? Am I not going to get promoted because I stapled it? Or what happened? And so there's all this crazy stuff and tribal knowledge that's not accurate and all this. So it's I put a lot of time and effort into a podcast that I then turned into a YouTube video, and the YouTube video is very much like that. It's PowerPoint slides and screenshots of websites and all that stuff where it's go here, do this. This is where this information is. This is what this means. These are the things they look at. This is how you submit it, that kind of stuff. And while people are still screwing it up, it's there's a ton of people. There's a ton of people that I've gotten really amazing feedback from. Thank God somebody finally put something together. So it's I mean, I think some people are looking at it and and getting something out of it. But a lot of times I would do that and then somebody would still screw it up. Or I'll get an email or a message where they're asking me a question that's answered in the video, and I'm like, did you listen to the video?
My email.
As per the painstakingly prepared YouTube video and accompanying podcast. Just do what I told you to do. Yeah.
Oh man. Hey, so I was listening to one of your episodes where you had mentioned you have a background in graphic design or websites or something.
Growing up, I was really into computers, and I mean, this was back when you had dial-up internet. But I was really into computers and web design. I taught myself how to code HTML and stuff, and then I was going to college right before I joined the Navy for graphic design, and September 11th happened, and I was already not fond of college. The social interactions and the crap that goes on, I just it wasn't for me. And I was having trouble making friends because of that. I wasn't going to party. I wasn't going to do all that other dumb stuff. And so I was having trouble being social because I didn't get along with anybody because it wasn't really my scene. So I was already looking at the military, and then September 11th happened, and it was I dropped out the next day. I was at a recruiter's office. But I went to school briefly for graphic design, and then did web design stuff before that. I'd spend a gazillion years since I've been into it seriously. And like the graphic design thing is kind of just like the artsy side of your brain, like never shuts off. So, I mean, I still have like that eye, but like, I don't know.
Did you make your logo?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
So
okay.
and it's only because I'm not as, again, like I used to be really into the software that they had back then. So I knew how to use it, but now I did download like Adobe Photoshop and I was trying to like get back into it. And it was just like, it's so complicated that I was like, I'm just going to have somebody do this for me. So
what software were you using back then?
It was called Paint Shop Pro. I did some stuff.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I did some stuff with Photoshop too, but Paint Shop Pro I could download and it was a lot cheaper and it had a lot of the same functionality. So I would use that. But the logo I did, there's a app called Fiverr. It's like Fiverr. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on there too.
Okay, yeah, that's what I got the logo from. I did a few different ones and like I've had varying experiences where there's one guy that I paid that sucked and didn't do anything I was asking him to do and it took forever. And then there's a couple others that I've interacted with that, I mean, it was amazing. Like the guy that made the logo. And then I used a different person to do like that little one that I use on Instagram, the little anchor and stuff. And I basically just told him, I'm like, look, I just want what's in there so that I have like a little like small logo to use for like different things and especially for like social media posts so that people know it's me. And so like that, yeah, they made that one for me, but
nice. Yeah, I'm just kind of starting out. I mean, as far as formal education, I'm just starting out with graphic design.
Nice.
So I didn't really think I was good enough to be on Fiverr, but my friend showed me some of the logos that she got made, and they were terrible.
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
oh, okay, I can be on here.
You could totally, yeah. There's definitely, you just have to be realistic with what you're charging until your skills get to a level that you can do more. But like, yeah, there was some that were hot garbage and then pretty convinced their portfolio was stolen. And then there were others that, yeah, I mean, they were really great. Like, when I got the logo made, like it took a minute to get it made, but like once they nailed it, I was just like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want. And yeah, it was, they did, and it's super affordable too. So like those guys do a good job. It was pretty cool.
Okay. Oh, but yeah, I mean, you were asking what I'm doing now. That's what I'm doing now is I'm going to this graphic design school that I wanted to go to back when I was in when I was in high school. I took a graphic communications class, so that, you know, same kind of thing. But what was it? And I was like, oh, this is the thing that I want to do. And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't have money for college.
Yeah.
So I ended up joining the Navy, and you know, here I am 10 years later, just finally doing what I wanted to do.
Well, that's awesome.
But yeah. Yeah, and there's so much like cooler stuff now. Like they have a 3D modeling program for that, which is what I'm hoping to get my bachelor's in.
Nice.
Because in when I was in high school, I was really into like my graphic communications class, and I really liked my my engineering design class. So that's kind of like both of the things that I'm gonna end up doing.
Nice.
But,
so where do you plan on going with like so first to Go Ashore? Like, because I know initially when I found it was just a blog, but I know you started a podcast, which I am ashamed to say I haven't gotten to listen to yet, but I plan
it's okay.
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of like,
I'm gonna do it.
Well, I mean, like I told you, like a lot of it is just like random clips of me and my friends just like talking, and I'm like, oh, this is funny, and we're thinking about the Navy, and
there's nothing wrong with somewhere. That. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think those kind of conversations can be really productive in certain, like, especially junior sailors that are a little like jaded or frustrated or whatever. Like there's a lot that to be related to. And it's like to hear people talking about what it's like to be them. Like there's a lot of appeal there. And there's a lot of things like we talked about that you can do that like a guy like me can't do yet, 'cause I'm still on active duty. Like you have the freedom to say things in a way that like a guy like me can't yet. And not that I would, because I might not have the same feelings, but it's like, you just do, like, you have a lot more freedom to do things and say things that they can. And even like the people that would be your listeners can't say, 'cause they're still active duty and they'd get in trouble. And it's just like, you're free to express certain opinions or frustrations or whatever, that it's like there's no concern about your chief being mad that you said it that way. And it's
right.
like, I think you could get a lot of people relating to that. Do you have like a vision for it going forward? Like the types of stuff that you'd talk about on the podcast, or the type of stuff that the content or whatever that you would generate for like To Go Ashore, the website?
For the podcast, I wanted to do interviews with veterans, like how what was your transition like? What do you do now? How massively different is it from what you were doing in the Navy or in the in the service or whatever? And there's some random stuff on there right now that I'm probably going to take down because it's just like so unrelated to any of that.
Okay.
But I just did an episode with my friend Holly, who she's her whole separation was all messed up because she was trying to separate back in December, and everyone was on holiday stand down, and nobody could help her, and her terminal leave got all jacked up, and and it's stuff like that. Like it's like stuff like that is a lot more common than people think. So I just want to be able to guide people in how to resolve it and move forward, or even before they get to that point, like what to expect, and like so it doesn't get to that point.
Plan ahead. Okay. How did you get involved with the Saving Sailors thing? How did that like come about? Because if I understand it correctly, it was like you and a handful of other people like founded it. Is that right?
So did you ever see Ryan's original post on
I don't think so.
Veterans Day? It was Veterans Day of like, this most recent Veterans Day. Like Saving Sailors is still pretty brand new.
Okay.
He made this post about it was this picture of him in his uniform smiling, and he talks about how like even though he was smiling in that picture, in the moment he actually just really, really was miserable and probably wanted to kill himself. And I don't know, like it got shared probably 1,000 times, and he wasn't expecting it to go viral the way it did, but it did. And he was like, oh crap, like I need a place to put these people, and and he hashtagged that post with hashtag Saving Sailors, so I remember we were having a conversation about like, what should we do with all this attention that he's getting, because he's a life coach. I don't know, like if I was gonna ask
like how you knew him, because I clicked on his profile and I'm pretty sure he was a submarine chief, so I was just like, oh, that's interesting. But then I was like, how did you guys like all link up?
Oh, okay. So back in the dark days of 2016, when I was seeing mental health, and I didn't have anyone else to take care of my daughter, I was staying behind on underways, and they didn't really. I guess this was better than anywhere else I've seen. That like when you can't go underway when you're in Hawaii, they send you TAD to mid-pack. And I don't know, I mean, it was just kind of like this big administrative building or whatever. And Ryan was my chief over there. And yeah, so there was just something different about him, like just from the very beginning when I checked it. Like there was a bunch of people from my ship that checked in all at the same time because, our ship was going underway, and for whatever reason we couldn't, like everyone had medical appointments or whatever it was. But the check-in wasn't like a standard like check-in. It was like he would talk to each sailor for like 10-15 minutes, like in depth about like their personal lives. And me and my friend Anna, we were like, what's this guy doing? Who does he think he is?
That's funny.
But I guess what it was that he had just launched his life coaching business, and he was kind of using us as guinea pigs. So some years later, I kind of like Facebook stalked him, and I was like, oh, okay, this is like this is the thing he does. That's why he was doing the thing he was doing. And I didn't want to like stalk him. So it's not like I like sent him a friend request and liked his business page. So, but there's this guy who is a mutual friend, but somehow I don't remember being on the ship with him. But he's convinced that his name is Andy, and he was like, yeah, we were on USS, last ship together. And I was like, I don't remember you, but okay. So I accepted his friend request, and Ryan had commented on one of his pictures, and I was like, hey, look, a mutual friend. So then that's when I like added him as a friend. But
Gotcha.
And then I joined his little like his little life coaching group. It's called First Wake Ups. But
okay.
Yeah, so I joined that group, and then I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. And he's like, oh yeah, of course I remember you. So that's that's kind of our backstory. I think yeah, I mean, and eventually I was like, oh yeah, like sure, I'll hire you as my life coach or whatever. And then so while we were working together, he made that post, and he was like, holy shit, what do I do? Like, do I funnel them to First Wake Ups? Like, and I was like, well, I don't know. And we just, I guess, decided that there should be a group called #SavingSailors, and that's kind of where that came from.
What's the and I don't know if you guys are just kind of like letting it unfold organically, or if there's like discussion about where it's going to go from here. But like, what is like, first, like, what's the stated goal? Like, what it like, we're just like, is it just a place for people to go and vent, or like what kind of what? Because like I watch it passively and just kind of read some of the posts, and like I commented on one where a guy was talking about hurting himself, but like just to encourage him not to do that, obviously, and like let him know that people were here for him. But like, it looks like it's just a place for people to go where similarly minded people that can support them and share their experiences. And it's just like to know that everybody, like, it's just human beings, and like everybody's in varying states of evolution. And it's like, sometimes those places are dark and we need other people to like help us get through that stage. And it's just like, that seems to be what it is to me. But like, what is the idea for you guys to like, when you created it, like what was the kind of like the mission in mind?
I mean, I think that was that's what it is to me too. It's like where it's kind of a place where you can get validation and know that you're not alone. I know that Ryan really doesn't want it to become another like posting meme page. So we had like a really hard and fast like no memes rule for a really long time, but now we do like meme Mondays, and it's like, oh, but he said he didn't want it to turn into Project Mayhem, whatever that means. I mean, I know what I know what
I definitely
he didn't want
like
it to become
I'm super disappointed that like I see like the group basic mentoring. I don't know if you've ever been there, but that degenerated into like hot garbage. Like it's not it's not that there's not ever any value there, but it's just like a lot of people post questions asking for help, and they get a lot of like people just saying, well, did you look it up? Like, did you go to this person and ask your career counselor? What are you even asking this? It's just like, come on, man. Like,
that's exactly how the gas turbines tech page is.
Yeah, it just turns into people attacking people on social media. It's like, why are you even here? Like, what are you doing? And then it's like the comments just turn into a back and forth about like the people that kind of understand the point and the people that don't, arguing back and forth about what's the right answer. And it's just like this poor E3 that just needed some help thought that posting that was going to get him that help. And it's just like maybe they don't know where to look. Maybe they don't know where to find the references that you're yelling at them to go look at, like that. And that's why they're resorting to social media to try to like shoot up a flare for help. And it's like, and instead of helping, you're going to like lecture them on how they should have figured it out themselves. Then what's the point of the Facebook group existing?
Right.
Like, I know, like, what are you doing? So I got involved in it a few years ago, and I used to get on some posts and try to help people out. But like like, unless I see one that's like somebody kind of that's like really freaking out, like, and hasn't gotten any like meaningful help, then I just kind of like just observe and sit back, because it's like, I'm just not going to get involved in like a war of words on Facebook comments. It's just not worth my time.
There's a group called I think it's just called the First Class Mess, and it's just like that, where it's like a bunch of first classes just like, you know, just thinking
the Chiefs groups are the same way. Like, it's not a lot of the Chiefs groups are very similar, where it's just a bunch of like memes and just talking shit, and it's not very productive. Like, it just is what it is. I feel like Facebook groups just degenerate into that a lot of the times without proper like curation.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's what we're trying to avoid with Saving Sailors. And I think like the overall like pie in the sky dream is for it to like turn into an actual nonprofit where we can help people find resources on on a bigger scale, or like
that would be cool.
Even or even like, I don't know, give out grants or whatever if we ever, you know, get to that level, because I think a lot of problems that people have been posting about start with like, oh well, I'm broke, or I don't like, we had this one guy who's like a Navy veteran, and he was like living on the street, and we're like, well, how can we help him? And we're like, like at this point we really can't, except to, you know, like try to find him a homeless shelter, or like
I mean, crowdfunding maybe would be the only thing I could think of. Because I mean, I'd PayPal him some money, like
right.
But then I guess doing it under the umbrella of a nonprofit would probably be the move, just because like there's people, especially on social media, that would try to scam stuff like that. And but that's cool. Like, I like that idea a lot, because I feel like, and I don't know, like, I know there's a lot of like military and veteran nonprofits out there. I don't know how many of them are focused on that piece, which I think could be really cool. Because like, I know, so my friend Amber, who I'm 100% going to put you in touch with about your podcast and stuff, because like, I don't know if you've listened to her episodes, but she's a social worker. She's graduating soon, and is trying to get a job at the VA and doing a bunch of other stuff. She's really interested in doing certain things with like policy level, like mental health things, but she works with a lot of veterans who were separated, like based on some kind of disciplinary issue, but the disciplinary issue was the result of some kind of military sexual trauma or something in that vein, where it's like they were dealing with that trauma destructively, and like, so they drugs, alcohol, like fighting, whatever it was, like the disciplinary symptom got them separated with a discharge that wouldn't support them getting treatment for that thing now that they're a veteran. So she's spends a bunch of time going through the process of like getting their discharge recoded so that they can be eligible for benefits that at the VA that would get them the treatment that they need. And so it's like, she's a super awesome human and does a lot of really cool things in that vein. So like, I'll definitely put you in contact with her, because I think you'd probably enjoy talking to her too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But that's cool. I hope that works out that way. That would be amazing. Have you guys done any research on like if there are existing nonprofits in the same lane at all? Because I don't know anything about it.
Kind of, sort of. I know that I'm trying, like Ryan and I are trying to like come up with like a mission statement and like a vision statement for like the website or whatever. And I like copy pasted a bunch of like similar-ish organizations together so that we could kind of like cobble something together. But there's nothing really that does exactly what we want Saving Sailors to do, I guess. Right.
I just mean too, like it'd almost be like something that you could get like a mentor from, like if there's an organization doing something similar, then maybe like to learn how to set it up, to like get some lessons learned, like points of contact, etc. Like, that could be a way in which you figure some of that stuff out too. But yeah, I definitely. I just didn't know like if there was any that do kind of similar things just to learn from and get the lessons learned and stuff like that. But yeah, that's all amazing. Is the website up, or are you guys working on it still?
Still working on it. Like we don't have any content. Like I just bought the domain name like last week because, like I said, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, and I was like, it seems like a good idea to do right now.
I do that a lot, where like a project will come up and I like buy something and then it sits on a shelf for 3 years and then I finally get around to doing it eventually. But yeah, I definitely have done that in my life.
I think I have a model of like the USS Nautilus or something that I bought when I was in high school, and it's still sitting on my bookshelf, like not put together.
Yeah, that sounds like something I would do for sure. Got any like save rounds or alibis? Anything else that we didn't talk about that you'd like to?
No, not really.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we've come to a natural conclusion. Unless you can think of anything else, I'll definitely link everything in the show notes so that people can find, because I don't know that the awareness is out there for the group, like Saving Sailors, which I think is a great resource, because it definitely is well curated by you guys as far as keeping it focused and keeping it devoid of all that crap, like the memes and everything else. Like, I think you guys are doing an awesome job of keeping it focused on the mission, and there's a lot of value there, just so that like somebody, especially if there's not something like locally, like they don't have a resource like that person that you would go talk to on the ship, or there's not somebody that they're comfortable doing it with, or they're just not ready to go talk to mental health yet, and they're even have like the anxiety issues like you were talking about like they just want to like talk, but it's like starting that conversation with a real human in real life is really difficult. It's like, this is like the perfect answer to get started. Right. Like just being in a place with people that have experienced similar things and that are similarly minded and that are there to like help and just be sounding boards. I've always noticed that, and it's something my mom taught me. It's like, it's not something I would have done on my own. It's like, anytime I've been in a place where some kind of like emotional strain or trauma like happened in my life, just saying it out loud over and over again, like just talking to someone that's like either impartial or has similar experiences, it's like just saying it out loud over and over again and like getting out of my head about it was super cathartic for me. And I would imagine that it probably functions that way for other people. So like, I highly, highly encourage everybody to check out the group Saving Sailors. It's on Facebook. It's super easy to find if you put it in the search bar. You hashtag Saving Sailors, and it's like you'll find it really quickly.
Oh, actually, really awesome. we might have gone private but by now, because I know there was like an issue last week or 2 weeks ago where someone said that they posted something and it's something you have to be brought up to the command, and invited to. It might be. I'll talk to Ryan about how we're going to go about that.
And if that's the case, we
have a page. We do have a Facebook page, separate from the group. But so you can like the Facebook page, and then worst case scenario, send the page a message or reach out to me, and I can invite you. You could. So I'll put that stuff in the show notes so people can find it. I'll put the Go Ashore stuff also in the show notes. Check out her podcast, right? I'm excited that there's a platform discussing what you're discussing, as far as like not just providing the resources and like the lessons learned for the separation process, which is important. And like, I'm glad that that's happening too, but also just discussing the things like the stressors of like people pressuring you to stay in, and like the fear of separating and going into the unknown, and some of those experiences, like putting a bunch of people in a place where those discussions are going to happen is super productive for those that are going to separate or that desire to separate but don't have the support at their command. Like that's super valuable, and I'm really glad that that's happening. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
I'm so bad at like ending conversations and starting conversations and having conversations.
That's what editing's for. It's all good. I'm going to make you sound real good. I promise. Yeah, well, thanks so much for doing it. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did. I just like talking to people. It's fun. She's a really interesting human, and it was a good time. And I love that even somebody like her that struggles with the types of social interactions required of the platforms she's a part of, it's like still doing it, still recognizing the need and still getting after it. It's really cool to see that. Check out dgutspodcast.com. She's got a podcast, blog, a bunch of other stuff there. And then especially if you're in need, but support if you can, if nothing else, the Saving Sailors platform by building awareness for it, by sharing it, by letting people know it exists. It's something that you can point somebody towards. I'm a really big fan of it since I'm in the group, so I can see what's going on, and I've been able to support a few people just by providing encouragement and like letting them know that they're not in this alone, and that there are things far more important than the Navy and the things that we do, because that's what it is. Like Jason Thompson said during our podcast, it's just a thing that we do. It's not who we are. So it's really important to be able to separate those and just, I'm really happy to see something like this existing, just because some really amazing sailors that are, a lot of which are now veterans, just recognize the need for it, came together, and they do an excellent job of curating it to make sure that it doesn't degenerate into what you see some Facebook groups doing, where it's just like a bunch of memes and mean people saying mean things, especially in an environment like this. Like, that's obviously not the intention, or it's not the forum for that kind of a thing. There's plenty of Facebook groups and pages for that kind of crap, but this isn't it. So check out Saving Sailors. Just be aware of it if you don't want to be part of the private group, because it's just not a thing that you feel like you need to be involved in. But you may know somebody that does. Like, just be aware of that and let people know that it's not a mental health function of the Navy. It's just a group of people that have experiences with or are currently experiencing struggles with mental health, and it's a place you can go to talk about those things and not feel alone. And that's kind of the big thing, is it's just like, I'm not a mental health professional, and it's really important that people recognize that I am not a mental health professional, nor are most of these people, if not all of them. But it's a place you can go to just talk, and that's better than nothing. It's like, just say something, just be in a place where you're talking, and then maybe those people who have gone through similar experiences can then help you understand that, like, maybe a mental health professional is what you need, or maybe you need other things. But if nothing else, it's just know that you're not alone, and that's a place that you can definitely do that. And I just highly recommend checking it out. If you need anything from us or have any questions about anything, hit us up. Don't give up the ship podcast at gmail.com. You can Facebook message me, Don't Give Up the Ship Podcast, or you can DM me on Instagram or Reddit. DGUTS Podcast. Super easy. We got a sub there as well if you want to jump into like a discussion in a message board format on Reddit about the episodes and the content of it, provide us feedback, ask questions, whatever. And then if you want to support, there's a couple ways to do that. You can get on dgutspodcast.com/shop, get yourself a t-shirt, magnets, stickers, a bunch of different stuff there. The money, it's not a for-profit thing. It just helps us keep the lights on as far as paying all the subscription fees and such. And then like, share, subscribe, review on all the things. iTunes, you can share it on all the social media platforms, review us, give us the 5 stars, all that stuff. It helps. It just builds visibility and gets the content out there to people that need it. So please do that if you are willing. And that's it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship.